Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got it!
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finney, fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard and happy Tuesday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte alongside as well from outsider.com. Hope you're all having a great day. Looking forward to talking to Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier, as they'll join us, and hearing from Tom Allen, Walt Bell. Let's see. Chatter. Football is here. The real game week one is upon us. Actually, we're 2 days away from Big Ten football opening.
That's a good point.
2 days.
Two
baby. Days from Big Ten football opening, baby. I'll start to think of that as Purdue and the Nittany Lions will open up the Big Ten season Thursday, and then followed by Indiana and Illinois. So it's here, baby. Yeah. Looking forward to that. We'll talk about that. We'll also, like Mike DeCourcy will be along, like I said, and Chronic Hoosier as well. What's up, man?
Not much. I'm just fired up. We got 2 games Thursday, 2 more games Friday. This is in the Big Ten, and then a whole slate on Saturday. I'm fired up. I got fired up
Chris
last
is
weekend.
on the I love it. Everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline already with Chris is on, Michael, Larry, Five Lefts, my man Bill. Man, Bill has been one of the longest listeners that we've had, along with Forrest. But Bill goes back deeper. Bill goes back to where we first started back in when we were on just down in by Jeffersonville, by Louisville, and all that. So appreciate you, Bill. How's it going, man? Rudy, I love it. Rudy the boxer didn't play Nebraska and Northwestern already play. Did Nebraska and Northwestern already play? Yes, they did. They played last week, last Saturday,
and
in Ireland, in Dublin. John C. on board as well. Welcome aboard, everybody. Appreciate you hopping along. Of course, brought to you by our great friends at Andy Moore Honda and Endeavor Hospitality, all part Endeavor Hospitality, of course, part of the WOW Club. Make sure you go there and sign up at your Apple App Store or Google Play Store. It's easy. This is not something that's going to inundate you with stuff. They're an IU sponsor, and they're doing all kinds of things during the year, so you'll build up some cool points for places like Southern Stone, Courtroom Sports Grill, Feast Market and Cellar, Cabello, Metalworks Brewing Company, Goteen, and places like BB's, where we're going to be Friday doing our pregame meal package with JD. I was just texting with him, telling him, say, hey, all right, we got to figure out what this week's since I've gotten nothing from you guys, an idea for the first tailgate. I'm going to leave that up to JD. Let him do it. Robert checking in from Evans Patch. How about all our people down on the ref? WREF 97.7 ESPN in Evansville. Always the right call. Mike, watching from the land of legend and listening from the land of legend in French Lick. Love it. Tim on as well. Says the Pacers, impossible trade with Lakers. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Miles Turner and Buddy Hield to the Lakers for Westbrook and 2 draft picks. Yeah, remember that, Dustin. We're going to talk about that. Ross Dolson met with us yesterday, and he said that his presser didn't make him feel good about IU football. media money already spent. I'm not sure. But Darren, he's ready for pregame now. Michael, Albert Pujols hit home run 694, and it was his 450th home run off of a different pitcher.
Wow.
Wait a minute. So he's hit home runs off the 450 dudes.
That's insane.
That's funny is what that is. Jason jumping on, saying hello, loves the shirt. Appreciate you. I believe we are trying to schedule a game at the Hoosier Gym for the Belmont girls basketball team. So hopefully that gets done. If you're listening on radio, yeah, I'm wearing the Hickory shirt, which is amazing that I had this. I'll be completely honest with you. This was in one of my travel bags because I'm in the midst of a move right now, and I'm like, I've got nothing different to wear, and I pride myself on wearing something different every day for so long that you cannot tell. You cannot see me wear the same thing for a long time, and I'm like, dude, I cannot. All I had was stuff that I know that I've worn in the last week. I'm like, can't do it. And luckily, the old Hickory shirt that was given to me, actually. And this was actually a gift the last time I was there from daggone it. Who was the director that passed away? Director of the Hoosier Gym, doggone it. He was on our show a couple of times. Super, super nice guy. And the fact that I'm forgetting his name right now is I feel horrible about. But the last time I was there, it was cool. I was there with another dude, and I had been there one time before, but I'd never really spent time in there. This time I was in there shooting because there's no one else there. I was in there shooting, shooting shots, walking through the locker room at my leisure. That little locker room that you see is that little. I don't know how they got a camera crew in there. Yeah, I don't know how they got a camera crew in there and all that. When
I come up, I've got to visit it. That's one thing I have not done, and I don't know why I haven't done it. But Bob Gardner's the guy you're thinking of.
Bob Gardner, thank you very much. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Wyatt. Yes. Yeah, you haven't been there? Oh, you're out of your mind.
I have not. No.
Well,
I gotta get there.
Dude, you got the Hoosier Gym, and it's probably 30 minutes from Newcastle, which is where the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame is. So you've got both of that right there.
I've been to Newcastle. I've not been to the Hoosier Gym.
You were 30 minutes away, man.
I know. I actually didn't know that, to be quite honest. If I knew it was that close, this was probably the days before where you checked everything on your phone when I was last at Newcastle. So, yeah, I got to get up there. A lot of my friends have been there. I went to school with people, went to college with people who lived like within 10 minutes of it, and I still have never been. So that's a slap on the wrist for me.
The wrist? Yeah. Oh, that's more like an old nun rap on the knuckles
with a ruler.
Yes. That, or I do like the slap on the back of the head.
There you go.
I love that, and I wish you could do that because it doesn't hurt. It scares the crap out of you.
Yes,
it does not hurt, and it sounds, and the sound is what's. Boy, that you pop somebody on the back of the head like it gets your attention so fast.
Yep.
And it's one of the best things you can do that well, that's an attention getter that it doesn't hurt. But football coaches loved to do that, especially when you had helmets on, because they could really do it and it not hurt, but it really gets your attention.
It just echoes throughout the helmet.
No, yeah, they would take their whistles and pop you on the helmet, and that thing, pow! You're like, man, yeah, fun stuff. We've got Notre Dame, Ohio State coming up as well. Lots of big games this week that we can talk about. What was I looking at? Before I want to get there, though, I want to find out where are we in baseball, baby. Where are the
Cardinals are on a heater right now. They've won 3 in a row, which includes
They've been on a heater. They've been on a heater for the last month, bro.
They have, but they won 3 straight, including 2 over the Braves. Pummeled the Reds last night. The Yankees lost yet again.
Okay, here we go. It was yesterday. So, the Reds.
Do you even have to say anything else?
13-4 they lose.
Yep.
To St. Louis. You're welcome. You're welcome, Cardinals fans. The Dodgers, all right, look at this. The Dodgers, I'm assuming this game has to be in Florida. Where they must have been playing in Cincinnati as well, correct?
Who, the Dodgers?
No, the Cardinals.
Yes, the Cardinals were. Yes, the Cardinals played in Cincinnati.
The attendance at Great American Ballpark for the league-leading St. Louis Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds, once a stalwart of meetings, drew a paltry 11,000 people.
That's not good. Wait,
11,000.
Let's see if that could be.
It does get. Oh, it can be, and it is by the winningest team in all of baseball. All of baseball right now, the LA Dodgers going to play the Florida Marlins.
Yep.
Which drew 10,200, nearly 1,300, but 10,000 people.
I'm not convinced.
For the best team in all of baseball, the LA Dodgers.
Nobody goes to Miami Marlins games. I don't know why they don't move the team.
They don't care about baseball.
No.
You've got the best team in all of the sport right there. You get a chance to go watch the guys that are going to be playing and possibly winning the World Series.
Well,
there's a great chance to take your kid out to a ball game, man. Right. That's a great opportunity for the Marlins to make that Father-Son Day, Mama-Daughter Day, anything. Well, obviously they didn't make it anything day. They made it stay home day.
They did. Well, I don't know whether. All
right, here's this. I'll top you this.
Or not.
How about Milwaukee? Well, it was at home, and they are in second place, but sucking. Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. All right, Milwaukee's not one of the worst teams in baseball, but they're a very mediocre team. Very mediocre.
Central. Yep.
Which is the worst division in all of baseball, which makes them very mediocre from the start.
Yep.
Now you're even less, so you're not even leading that division. You're playing the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the worst teams in all of baseball. It draws 23,000 people to that game.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. The thing about Miami, I don't know if it's clearly not a baseball town, but their ownership has been terrible for decades. Like, they just need to move the team somewhere else because they have not been able to.
We hear about that.
And yes, Jennifer asked, Donnie Baseball is still in Miami, unfortunately, throwing at Ronald Acuna every chance he gets. But that's neither here nor there.
All right, so I didn't even look at the standings now. So, oh, dang it, come on. So, all right, here we go. Of course, the Yankees still leading. They're up 7. I thought that they were going to give they've still lost. They've lost 3 straight, man. They're 5-5 over their last 10 games, and the Tampa Bay Rays are 7-3. So they picked up 2 games. I don't know.
I don't know if there's enough time.
Yeah, I don't know. There's enough time. It's like watching a NASCAR race when a second place guy is like 2 seconds behind on a 2.5-mile track, and boy, he's catching him. He's got 5 laps. I'm like, I don't know. There's enough time. Over in the Central, of course, that is a close race there with Cleveland and the Minnesota Twins. I'm sure Pete's happy. The Twins a game and a half back. The White Sox
only 5 back.
Only 5 back. I'm looking, but they don't have a shot at the wild card though because they've just lost too many games. unless they made a run, because the Mariners are in second place behind the Astros with 70 wins, which is more wins than the American League Central leading Cleveland has.
I was going to say
1, 2, 3, 4.
AL and NL Centrals are identical, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Man, I could go on for a minute talking about this, but it looks like we've already got to hit a break. So let's do that. So we're not late. We're being good boys today. Hey, I appreciate you guys being on with us. Mike DeCourcy coming along, Chronic Hoosier, and plenty more for us to talk about. We're going to hear from Tom Allen and Walt Bell and his mustache. The story. You can only get it right here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality, where GoTeen is a part of that. For if you're an active person, you're active, your kids, you've got active people in your life. For a limited time, GoTeen, a delicious, healthier snack that helps keep you going, is offering a Hoosier pack. It's a 16-count GoTeen pack that can be any of your favorite flavors for only $15 if you purchase the Hoosier pack. We'll sweeten the deal by using the code COIL10, COIL, and the number 10. You'll receive 10% more off of the order. To purchase the Hoosier pack GoTeen, please just go to GoTeenBites.com. And that is GOTEIN, like protein, but it's GoTeen. GoTeenBites.com while supplies last. GoTeen is a proud partner of Indiana Athletics and is a part of the WOW Network and a great sponsor here of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with Mike DeCourcy and more here on Indiana Sports Beat after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington, well, I don't see if he's tired of Reds fans crying that he's a Tiger fan. I don't know, but I need a new baseball team, Mike.
Oh, well, I mean, just pick the Dodgers, because they're always at least in the division.
I'm not doing that. I refuse to do that. Me and my brother would get in such. My brother was a damn Dodger fan growing up because of that, and it drove me nuts because the Reds and the Dodgers were in the same division back then. And he only picked the Dodgers. He was a Dodgers fan and a Cowboys fan. And I used to just beat him silly because I'm like, don't know anything about Dallas or LA. He was 4 years younger than me, but he had always picked the teams that were the rivals to the teams I liked. Because I was a Rams fan too. That was funny. Oh man. But yeah, I was the Dodgers and the Reds, that was fun growing up, man.
Oh yeah, they were a great rivalry, absolutely.
It was stupid. Yeah. It was stupid because of the geography, but it was a great rivalry. Yeah. I remember my early days of where I was working for CBS, I think. And the Dodgers were at Cincinnati in the old riverfront, and the manager's office was just a tiny room that had a desk in it, and that was it. And I remember after the game being in there with Tommy Lasorda, and somebody asked him a question, and he's eating fried chicken. And buddy, he is going through that fried chicken like it is the first and last meal he is ever going to get.
I've been there.
And he was answering questions, and he's just tearing through that chicken like nothing I've ever seen. It's a great memory.
Yes, I still remember Whitey Herzog with like dribbles of mayonnaise.
Those guys, they didn't care.
In his underwear. I've never eaten in my underwear, but Whitey Herzog has eaten in his underwear in front of 24 people.
And did give a rat's butt.
No, he did not.
I've told this story before, but my favorite sports story of all time is getting cussed out by Harry Carey. We had just worked a Reds-Cubs game.
20 seconds.
Well, I'll tell it when we come back.
There goes the story.
Okay, there you go. Tell when we come back.
I'll tell it when we come back. It's a
.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday, and that means Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. How are you, sir?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
I am fine. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with me as always as well. It is, well, it's great. College football is here. College sports are back. Basketball, I just saw someone is only 69 days away. It's just, I love it. I love it. I love it. In the break, we were talking baseball standings and all that. And then I was telling a story. I think I've told this before, but my favorite baseball story of all time is getting cussed out by Harry Carey once when I was working for CBS doing a Reds game. And there was a girl that was from Chicago, and I'd worked with her at the Derby just prior to, but she knew. And she said after the game, she goes, "Hey, well, after the game, we'll go up and get Harry's autograph." And I didn't think, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't care. I was not a Reds fan. I was a Reds fan, not a Cubs fan, but I'm a sports fan. And, Harry Carey it was Harry Carey. And I did have a friend that was a big Cubs fan. So I grabbed a couple of balls off the field during batting practice. And then after the game, we go up and go into the booth, and, he's finishing up, and there's just four of us. And I'm first in line, and I've got two balls. And hi, Mr. Carey, would you mind signing my ball? And he signs it. And I give him the other one and say, Mr. Carey, would you sign the one for a friend of mine? No, I signed your ball. Get out of here. And kind of waves me off. And I'm like, all right. So I just go. There's only four of us. But I'm like, he's so drunk. I just went to the back of the line. And I'm thinking he's not going to notice. So I just wait, go through there, and I get up. Hi, Mr. Carey, would you mind signing my ball? No, I signed your ball, you son of a bitch. Now get the hell out of here. And I was just, first of all, I couldn't believe he remembered me. And I just love that. That's just a great, great story. But I love it. I couldn't believe it. My friend did not get the ball. So poor him. Poor him. But yeah, what I will cherish that forever. That's just a great, I love that story. How are you doing, man? How was your weekend?
I'm doing well. My weekend was just fine. Very, very pleasant. Nothing eventful, but very nice. Except for Liverpool won 9-0, which was a first for me.
Who the hell were they playing?
They were playing Bournemouth. And Bournemouth today fired their coach. I'm going to guess it was related to losing 9-0. I'm sure that had to play a part in it.
Now, are they a Premier League team?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. They were just promoted this year.
I was just going to say, is relegation in their future? Look at me using soccer terms, baby. I'm all about it now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be long for the Premier League. No.
I'm telling you, that is where I see college football. The Premier League and the Champions League. And to earn your way up into that Premier League, oh, man.
The championship. I have to correct you.
Oh,
again.
Championship League. I'm sorry. It would sound better if it was the Champions League, but Championship League.
Champions League, not to confuse you, Champions League is one step above the Premier League. It's like the NCAA tournament in a way, sort of.
There is a Champions League?
Yes, there is.
I thought the Premier League was the elite league.
Well, it is, but then the Champions League is from the champions of all the leagues in Europe, Italy, Spain, even Ukraine.
So basically, so it's the World Series.
Yeah, sort of. Like I said, it's a little bit more like an NCAA tournament that runs all the way through the year, kind of, sort of. So I guess. I mean, it's hard to explain in American context, but
there's a Champions League, the Premier League, the Championship League.
Yeah, the championship is just a second division, and it's a minor league, and they try to dress it up by calling it the championship.
That's like AAA, right?
Yes, it is.
And
they don't want to hear that, but that's what it is.
Those are the teams that have been relegated and relegated and are looking to get promoted, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm slowly getting it.
You're getting there.
I'm grasping it because I do enjoy good soccer now.
Yes.
And as silly as that is for me to say from someone, that's a 180 for me, a complete 180.
Yes.
If I'm going through TV and there is a good soccer match on, I stop. I'll watch it. I will.
I didn't mean to get you off on a tangent here by mentioning the 9-0. It just was kind of
no. It's all part of the deal. Indiana soccer underway. Indiana started off their season on the road at number 1 and defending national champion Clemson. They lost 3-2. So that's not. Of course, you'd rather start off with a win, but wow. That's not what Indiana does. They go hard, but that's a great way to start. So that must be good things for Indiana to come this year. So look at. I enjoy going to watch IU play because they're always good. They always have great talent. I don't know how many guys they have put in these various leagues over the last 10 to 15 years, but it is a ton. A lot of IU guys playing professional soccer.
Yes, they do it. They have a great program. I've had for 40 years, really. It's been a highly consistent men's soccer program. I'm sure they've had their down periods in that, but they've been at the highest level of NCAA Division I men's soccer for going back to the start of my career.
Serena Williams, that's kind of the end of a dynasty.
It is.
Her. I'm talking a freaking dynasty. Maybe the biggest, most successful tennis player, definitely of the modern era, men or women, from the domination of the time. I'm like, golly, no, she was the Tiger Woods of tennis, and time is the only thing that caught up to her.
I think motherhood accelerated that a little bit because it took her out of competition at a period when
that changes a woman's body that like no one knows. I remember when my daughter's my wife at the time it changes, and so I can't imagine being a freaking pro athlete. Men don't have to do that, and
they don't, and there are many instances of women who have children and then come back and resume playing an elite level. Alex Morgan of the U.S. women's soccer team right now is one of the top goal scorers in the National Women's Soccer League, and she just had her child, I believe it was last April 21, and she's back playing at an extremely high level. The thing with Serena was that she had her child late 30s. So at a time when she's already fighting mother time, so to speak, then she gets pregnant and has a child. So now she has to, she's fighting against mother time and as well as motherhood, so to speak, and trying to get the time to practice and play. And so I think it may have cost, it may have led to, I don't want to say cost, but it may have led to her winning maybe one fewer major, maybe a couple fewer majors than she might have at this point in her career, because it, obviously it took her off the court for, I don't know exactly what the period of how many majors she missed during her pregnancy and early motherhood, but it had to be at least basically a full cycle of Grand Slams. So I think her, that accelerated her reaching this point in her career where it's time for her to go. But she is an absolutely magnificent athlete and competitor. And she just, she's just been awesome to see her in the handful of times I was able to watch her play in the Cincinnati tournament that they have every year right before the U.S. Open and once or twice at the U.S. Open as well. Just, one of the great athletes of my lifetime, without a doubt. And I've lived for some pretty special, for some pretty Walter Payton and Tom Brady and Michael and LeBron. And and Muhammad Ali. And so I've gotten to see or interact with some of the greatest in history. And she is right there with all of them.
Ali is my favorite of all time. Albert Pujols, another one who is going out right now, just hit his, we were talking about this earlier with me and Dustin. This is an amazing stat. He hit his 450th home run off of a different pitcher. Now he's got more than 450, but where is he approaching 600 or
694? So he's approaching 700.
Okay. 700. So he's getting up there to Babe Ruth. But he hit his 450th off of a different pitcher, which beat Barry Bonds. And so that says a whole lot of things. If Pujols isn't juicing, makes that even more. That just 450 different pitchers have given up yard to this dude, man. That's a lot.
He's having a remarkable year at age 42 as well. I mean, he's not having, again, just like Serena's not the player she was when she was 30. He's not hitting 47 home runs and knocking in 135 or whatever, or OPSing at over 1,000. I mean, he's not doing that, but he's at, in only 250 plate appearances, he's got 15 home runs and OPS of 882. He's having an incredible year on a team that's being very successful. It's kind of cool to see him, sort of going out this way. And he may yet be a factor in October of his final season. That would be something to see.
Dustin?
I mean, I'm still flabbergasted by all the soccer talk here. I'm trying to recover, trying to get back on track here.
Hey, baby, we're all about everything.
We're all over the place.
All-in sports show.
No,
you gotta be ready. You gotta be on.
I gotta be on my toes. We talked about soccer. I don't watch soccer. I don't watch tennis, although I played it. So I don't know. I'm going to go back to my wheelhouse in college football and ask about the situation that was Nebraska over the weekend, in that, once again, Scott Frost makes a bad decision. And I have to say that when I was watching it, I don't care who wins these games, but a little piece of me was like happy for Adrian Martinez, because I feel like throughout his career at Nebraska, he caught a lot of flack for the way the games ended. A lot of times taking a sack, throwing a bad pass, interception, fumble, whatever it might be. And here Nebraska is with an 11-point lead in the second half of a game, an opportunity to close the door, and Casey Thompson throws an interception. They make some bad decisions. I mean, at this point, is there any chance that Scott Frost can? I mean, you have a long season, but I don't know if you can't beat Northwestern after seeing the same movie again. I don't know that Scott Frost is ever going to get it on track.
Well, I would say that would be the prevailing opinion, but I've seen, I remember, this is a true story. In I think it was 90 or 91, Penn State lost their first two games. They lost to Virginia in one of them, and I can't remember who the second one was. So I started doing some research, and at that time, like, there was no Nick Saban winning national championships at 67, right. 68. And and Joe was just over 60 at that point, I think. I don't remember the exact age. I'd have to look that up. But I started researching, like, the greats, all of the legends, and what they did after 60. And it was off the cliff. Every single one of them, just about. They either gave it up before they got there, or their careers went boom. That was it. And I was getting ready to write that story, and I was getting all the research together. And then they won. Well, okay, we can't run it this week. And they won again. Can't run it this week. They ended up, I think, winning 9 in a row in an 11-game season. They started 0-2, and I think they went 9-2. So I never, I know there's a rush in the media to come to these verdicts. But, Scott Frost hasn't presented his entire case yet. Now, in another month, he could be 0-5. And then he would, and then the defense rests, right?
Right.
But in another month, he could also be 5-1 or 4-1, I guess.
I think the Indiana game is going to be ironically important, not because it's Indiana, but because it's Indiana. Indiana is the 5th game of the season. So they've got the first game out of the way, which was a tough on-road conference game. So now I haven't looked at their schedule. I assume they have their next 3 non-con games. And if that is the case, they should be 3-1. The 5th game.
No, it's not so easy, man.
No.
They got North Dakota and Georgia Southern, so they're going to be 2-1. But then comes Oklahoma to town, and so presuming that game goes the way that it would be expected, then that Indiana game, you're right, is pivotal because he's got 2 games he absolutely should win. They're not high major games, and then he's got Oklahoma. Look, he could make that Indiana game less relevant by somehow beating Oklahoma at home.
But he's probably going to be 2-2 when he faces Indiana.
That's what I'm saying.
He lost and went to 2-3 at home. Yeah. It's over right then. And his buyout it coincides either right before or right after the Indiana game. And I cannot imagine that is an accident because of the chatter that happened a few years ago with him about, well, the Big Ten should schedule Indiana, and it got back to IU. It was Fred Glass heard about it. The football team knew about it, and Tom Allen was in the post-game presser. Was just like, yeah, there you go. Stick that up your 378 consecutive sellouts. Whatever. But if Scott Frost, he can lose to Oklahoma, but he cannot, under any circumstances, lose to Indiana. He loses to Indiana. He loses his job. I don't know if it's that day, but in the minds of whomever is the decision maker, he loses the job that day if he loses to Indiana. That's down the road, but that game is going to loom very large for him.
Yeah, and it may not be. That might not be enough for him. It depends. But again, he's got to take care of business the next 2 games and then see what happens. Take your best shot against Oklahoma. And remember, this game's at home. That's a home game. So you should be competitive in that game. If he's non-competitive, that says something as well. Now, that's not been their MO to be non-competitive. And again, that's why it's so important that they be competitive. Because if you go from being competitive but losing to being non-competitive, that's when athletic directors and presidents and boosters really lose patience. But I don't know how, with your job on the line, and your job's on the line, and you're winning 28-17, and everything's going, not every – they weren't perfect in that first half, but they were playing good football. I mean, the nature of football now, it's pretty rare for you to go out and shut the other team out or shut the other team down. I mean, the ball moves now. So the fact that Northwestern moved it a couple of times was nothing – it wasn't a surprise, and it wasn't something that was really damaging to Nebraska. They built an 11-point lead early in the third quarter. You got to play football there. I mean, you're not out to show you're the smartest guy in the room. You're at that point in the game, you're trying to play football. I mean, there are times in a basketball game when you're up 8, and so you go for that deep 3 because you're like, if you hit that 3, man, it's over. And if you don't, you're still up 8. But you don't take that shot when you're up 1.
Right.
Because if you're up 1 and you take that shot and you miss it, the other team goes down, dunks the ball on fast break, and now you're behind. So you don't do that. And that's so I mean, and he says now if he had to do it over again or no, man, you can't. That
was the thing.
Can't even be in your head.
That stood out to me when he second guessed himself and he made it public. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You got to stick with your decision and say, hey, I was trying. He explained what he was trying to do.
Yeah, he was trying to put it away, but it's too early to put it away.
Yeah.
And if you want to put it away, go down and create a turnover. Shut them down pin them back on a great kickoff, pin them back, shut them down, get the 3 and out, get them to punt the ball to you at the 45. Then you score. Take it down and score. And now you have not only scored a touchdown again and now made it an 18-point lead, but you've also chewed more time off the clock. So they have no way to get back. I mean, that's how football works. And
they did it by natural cause. They would have done it by natural causes had they.
Well, that's theoretically. I mean, but if you're trying to end the game there, that's how you end the game. When Bill Cowher kicked off, did the onside kick at the start of the second half in the Super Bowl, they were desperate. I mean, they had played pretty well toward the end of the first half, but there was a desperation there. They knew they had to have an extra possession here or there to get back against a team as great as that Cowboys team. So there was a justification there, and if it failed, it failed. But they were already behind. But in football, you don't try to put somebody away when you're up 11 by onside kicking. You put somebody away by being a superior football team. And I, if you are Nick Saban in that circumstance, and you feel like that's what you're going to do, you're going to end the game with something like that. You can get away with it because you're Nick Saban and you won 17 national championships or whatever. But when you're fighting for your job, you can't. And here's the kicker to that analogy. Nick Saban wouldn't do it. That's why he's Nick Saban.
Exactly.
That's why he makes $11+ million a year now. We got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more of Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out. Man, are your with the new contracts and stuff? Will your roles with Fox Big Ten increase, or doing more?
No, I'll be doing the same stuff. I know with Fox I'll be doing the same. I don't know. I haven't gotten a schedule or anything from BTN for next year, so I don't know.
Do you do any football? I don't.
Oh no. I'm strictly a basketball analyst.
Okay. I didn't know if they brought you in or not.
Mike, how many radio hits do you do each week?
This time of year, not as many. Basketball season, it's quite a few. I have 3 or 4 other regular spots that I do, and then I'll usually do 8 or so, 10 or so on top of that. Depends on, it depends on what's going on, really.
John Boy, this is probably a good time for
the mustache thing.
Yeah,
that's fine. If you want to introduce it, I'll have it ready.
Since I see that all 3 of the facial people here are currently wearing facial hair. You just can't see mine.
Peach fuzz.
No, that's because it's white. Blonde hair apparently turns white, not gray. Or red. It used to be kind of reddish, a little Irish reddish. Yeah, have you ever seen an old Irish guy? They all have white beards. Just thought of that. Or red.
So explain why this old Irish guy still has gray then.
I was just getting ready to ask, so what is DeCourcy?
Irish, definitely, yes. It confuses a lot of people. A lot of Europeans think it's French, and there is a French influence there. But if you go to Ireland, you'll find the name DeCourcy scattered about here or there.
Yeah.
Real estate. When we were there, we saw it on a real estate sign. I think someone sent us a picture of a restaurant or something in one part of the country.
10 seconds.
Well, I'm only 50% Irish, and then the other's Welsh and German.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is a Tuesday of game week for college football, as week 1 is here, baby. Ready to get at it, go out. The Big Ten gets underway on Thursday with Purdue and Penn State. That should be a game to watch. I'm looking forward to watching that game. Then, of course, Indiana opens their season at home under the lights Friday night against the Fighting Illini, who picked up a win over Wyoming over the weekend. And then everybody else gets at it on Saturday. Yesterday, we had the chance to talk to Coach Allen, Chip Walt Bell, and Chad Wilt. I asked Walt Bell a question that was nothing to do with football because I had posted a clip a couple weeks ago, and Dustin DePirick he got it started. But he had as a mustache now. He did not have at the start of fall camp, I believe. And one of them tight, crisp mustaches. And Dustin DePirick said, man, I'm trying to think of my favorite Western character. He was thinking Doc Holliday or something, and I'm like, hey, it kind of, if you made that a black and white photo with that solid mustache he's got, I'm like, yeah, maybe. But I had the chance to ask him about that yesterday, and it was not just a run-of-the-mill boring answer. It was there is some validity behind what he's doing. So let's hear that, John.
And what prompted it? What prompted it? Well, the quarterback's not a bunch of kids on offense were joking about it. If you look at my genetic heritage, there's a large family tradition of well-mustachioed gentlemen. I grew up, my father, he had a nice thick caterpillar up there, and then also I'm 38. I got 2 kids. I got a wife. And every comedic reference I make, no one understands. So it probably was time for me to have a mustache. But no, it's here to stay. I grew up, granddad, dad, everybody had one. So figured I'd join the family line.
There you go. It's a great, fun answer.
He lost me on the comedic reference. Like, how's the mustache help his delivery on comedy?
I think that they were seeing him as young, maybe. I don't know, not taking him serious.
Maybe that's he's obviously got a very young countenance. So I can see where maybe that was a problem for him. I don't know. But
young looking 38, yeah.
He is indeed. He is. I'll tell you a story about how I came to have a goatee. This is a true story. I was watching late at night Love Connection. And
oh my God,
this was around 99.
Was that with Adam Carolla?
No, this was before that. This is with the guy that used to be on a Wheel of Fortune or whichever. Not.
He's from Kentucky.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I forget his name now. I'm sure he'd be pleased by that.
I know what you're talking about.
Chuck Woolery, yeah.
Chuck Woolery, yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm watching this Love Connection. This is 1999, and this woman sees the 3 guys or whatever that she can pick from or whatever, and the one guy has a mustache, and I had a mustache then, and she basically called him out on being out of style, that wasn't in style anymore. I started growing my goatee the next day because I'm not gonna be out of style, man. So I've had it ever since. I thought about shaving it off, but my wife likes it, so it stays. But
he was born in
now I think technically this is out of style. But what am I going to do? I mean, I'm not going back to the straight mustache.
I think I had a mustache when I was 19 or something, just because there was some hair growing there. So I just let it grow there, But
yeah, I grew mine in '82 because I was covering Major League Baseball, and I looked like I was 13. So
yeah,
I figured if I grew a mustache, I'd look a little older. So that didn't make me a better baseball writer. I was the worst baseball writer ever. And I did not hold that job for. I did one season, and that was the end of it. And thankfully so in a lot of ways. But the mustache, it didn't help. It may have helped get me taken a little bit more seriously, but it didn't make me a better baseball reporter.
I was roping rodeo, and so it's almost you have to have some kind of facial hair, you chew Copenhagen. There's these things that just kind of go along with when you're rodeoing. You're
a rodeo cowboy. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I was. Yeah.
Did you know that, Dustin?
I did know that, but I
Okay.
just learned it recently.
Okay. I did not know you were a cowboy.
But I stopped, like when I stopped roping, the chewing went away. There was an 8-year period where I was not competing, and it just, the chewing tobacco just went away because it was it was a habit of being there. But anyway, that was, I think I always had facial hair during that. I'll find a picture of that.
The story,
put that up.
The story behind mine is that I'm just too lazy to break out the clippers very often.
That's generally a lot of times because that doesn't have nothing to do with this. But yeah, a great story from
also
Walt Bell on that.
I've been told that if I don't have this, I look a lot like Charlie Brown. So I'm trying to avoid any sort of Peanuts character.
Exactly. So, all right, we got the first weekend of college football up ahead of us. Mike, what are you looking forward to? Of course, with Indiana, this is a must-win game, and I know it's almost, you hate saying that on a season that has 12 games in it, and this is number 1, but it just is. It's a must-win game because you don't have the opportunities that follow that are really limited for me, for this team. If this was, a different team, I wouldn't necessarily say that. But for this team coming off of this season, they came off of with Tom Allen where he is, I think, and it being a home game and with the fans, there's going to be so much attention. Friday night, that just all these things for me go into making it a must win.
Yeah, I'll dissent from that, if only because when we talk about must win, what we ignore about is that, okay, so if they lose that game, what about if, okay, so let's say they lose that one, but then Michigan comes to town in a month and they beat them. Well, doesn't that erase the fact that they lost to Illinois? I mean, it doesn't in the sense of it affects your conference standing and everything, but in terms of your perception of strength and growth and all that sort of stuff, I think it's a very important game and an opportunity. Illinois already played, so have a little bit of an advantage there. Indiana's advantages in playing at home. So I think it's a significant opportunity because if they get that, then they have two games, one against the FCS and then another one against the developing FBS team in Western Kentucky. So then you have some opportunities to gain some strength at home, and then you go on the road to Cincinnati. So I think it's an opportunity game. If you could be 3-0 going into Cincinnati, you're set up to have a nice season. The schedule works well for them. But if you lose that one, all of a sudden you're scrambling, and then somewhere down the road, you do have to win a game or two that you're not supposed to win, so to speak. So maybe it's Michigan, maybe it's Nebraska on the road. I'm not sure. But I think it's a significant opportunity for them to win a game that's going to matter to their start, to their Big Ten standing, to the overall success of the year. But I hate to put on, in game one, must win, because like I said, you can erase that. You can erase that with some surprising success. It amps it up so that you have to at that point. If you lose that game, then you have to counteract it with a victory that you're, theoretically not supposed to win.
I don't disagree with that point. I think the reason it gets labeled as a must win is because Illinois is a much improved football team, as are teams like Maryland, Rutgers, Purdue, obviously. Their games are hard to win now in the Big Ten.
Yes.
And I guess where my mindset goes, and the mindset of a lot of fans, is if you can't beat Illinois at home, who are you going to be able to beat in the Big Ten? Now, that doesn't mean they can't go out and, like you said, they can't go out and get an upset. It just, then you break out the Sharpie and try to circle the wins, and it gets really difficult if you don't have that first one against Illinois to find where your wins are going to come from. I think you're right. I think they can rebound. It's just going to be incredibly difficult if they don't get that first one.
Yeah, I believe me. That's why I said I think it's an opportunity. I think it's important for them. I just reject the notion that if you lose that game, well, where's it going to come from? Where it's going to have to come from is you're going to have to get a lot better. And sometimes teams do, and sometimes they don't. I I understand the importance that fans are going to place on that game, but sometimes when you do that, you miss like if it doesn't happen and then you sort of surrender on it. Well, obviously they're not any better, and then all of a sudden they've won 4 games in a row, and you're not going to miss it, Dustin. But I mean, like some fans might say, oh well, same old, and then they miss this growth and development that happens. One never knows. That's why we watch sports, and that's why I think that you can emphasize the importance of this game. It's a huge opportunity for them to get off to a great start. Going into Cincinnati at the end of the month, end of September, with 3 wins, would be enormous for them, because it would give them the confidence that they could go in there and win that game. We don't know what the Bearcats are going to be. They lost a lot of great players off of last year's conference championship team. They lost a lot of great players. But they still have some very good ones. So it could go either way for them as well. And they have a difficult schedule. They have to play Arkansas this weekend. Oh, yeah. The Hoosiers coming in. So they've got some difficult games. And so if the Hoosiers are going into that game 3-0, it's a real opportunity for them to get off to a tremendous start. And that's why I totally agree with the importance of this game with both of you. I can't quite get on if they don't win this, then the season is lost.
Right. And I understand that, because anybody can turn it around at any time. It's just, I think we're just going off of historical perspective.
Yes.
Is what we'd say. And, offensively, I have confidence in Indiana defensively, because they've got some really good players back. They've got Tom Allen over there, which I know he is locked in on that. And Chad Wilt seems to be a better fit. I've not been in practice and all that, but just watching him up, talking to him, you can tell that he's the defensive guy and that Chad Bell's the offensive guy. I mean, Wills has just got that defensive mantra about him, that makeup.
Let me tell you.
But I don't know what I was going to say is I don't know, but the offense, and it's not that I don't have a confidence in Chad Wilt. We don't know. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I'll guarantee you they're going to have to run just a very fast-paced, quick-hitting offense, and I don't know how that could be Jack Tuttle, but I think we're going to probably find out.
I think the thing to me that stands out about Chad Wilt is, and why I think he's probably a better fit than Charlton Warren, is I understand that all programs have their quote unquote culture. It's the thing that all 130 FBS coaches talk about. But Indiana, Tom Allen, and PJ Fleck, Minnesota, they kind of take that to another level. So him coming from Minnesota, I think he's kind of accustomed to that. I'm going to call it over the top, because I don't know a better word for it. It's not that it's necessarily over the top, but you have to be a little bit different to win at Indiana, or a little bit different to win at a place like Minnesota. So I think that can be a culture shock for a guy who spent a lot of his career in the SEC. Chad Wilt has spent the last couple of years at Minnesota with PJ Fleck. So he's coming into a similar type of culture where it's not row the boat, it's LEO, but it's that type of thing. And I think that does make a difference in his adjustment period from Minnesota to Indiana. I could just be blowing smoke, but I think that is a legitimate thing when you're accustomed to that type of culture, as opposed to coming from a completely different, like Florida, Georgia, some of these other places that Charlton Warren had stopped.
All the things you're talking about, though, are the reasons why one, can look at this game and say, okay, if it doesn't happen, they can get better, because there's a new quarterback, new OC, all of that. You can't necessarily expect them to be their absolute best on day one. Yeah. You obviously would prefer that, but you don't know. And so that's kind of what makes it so dicey to say must win, when obviously with two essential parts to any offense being brand new to Big Ten, high level Big Ten competition, in the part of the player, and then into IU in the part of the coach. That's why I'm not sure that they're going to be their best at the start, and that there's room to improve, and why even winning an ugly game on Friday night would be a significant triumph for the Hoosiers because it would put them in a great position moving forward.
Mike's talked me off the ledge. No longer a must win for Indiana.
But it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really important for them to try to get that win however they can get it. Go out and force 4 turnovers and get it done that way. If your offense isn't ready to roll, and that's often been the case in college football. You get it done with what's good until everything else is in place, and then all of a sudden, you're having a significant season.
The reason I say it's a must win is because I look at the schedule and 6 wins and getting those 6 wins. I'm like, okay, where can those 6 wins come from? And boy, I'm like, there's not a game other than say Idaho and Western Kentucky that they'll be able to take a breath on. I think that even the home game, I think they play Maryland at home.
They do.
That is not going to be easy. They play Rutgers on the road, which that would be your easiest in league game, but it's a road game. And so then that's what I'm looking at. I start counting games.
Well, it's going to be a significant opening weekend, a terrific opening weekend. College football is doing a great job for itself. Obviously, the networks have some influence there. The conferences are responding. But it's a great opening weekend. Thursday night, Penn State, Purdue on one channel. Pitt, West Virginia, the backyard brawl. I've got you always ask me what I'm up to, Jim. Tomorrow morning, I have an epic piece about an epic game between Pitt and West Virginia. They are going to play for the first time in 11 years.
Really?
On Thursday night. First time in 11 years. That rivalry went dormant when the Big East Football Conference kind of dissolved or reformed in the American Athletic Conference, and Pitt went to the ACC and West Virginia, the Big 12. They're going to be back on the field at Acrisure Stadium on Thursday night. And I talked to a lot of principals from the 2007 game, 15th anniversary of that game. It's the most significant game in the history of that rivalry and the worst day in West Virginia football history. So it was a fun story to write. I talked to a bunch of people from the Pitt side. Surprisingly, none of the West Virginia people really wanted to talk to me. So it's mostly told from the Pitt perspective, but a ton of fun. It'll show up tomorrow morning on sportingnews.com about the game that is described by Pitt fans simply with 3 numbers and a dash, 13-9. That's all they need to say to one another, and they can, and they start whooping it up.
Oh, so they've only played. That's not a lot.
Oh no, 13-9 was the score of the 2007 game when West Virginia
the last
went
time
in.
they played.
No, this was in 2007. West Virginia went in as number 2 in the country. All they had to do was beat Pitt to win to play in the BCS title game, and they were 28.5-point favorite, Jim. 28.5 points. Pitt wasn't very good that year. They were only 4-7 entering the game. And that 13-9 represents the final score. That, as I said, Pitt fans they'll have T-shirts that say 13-9 on them. There are license plates in the state of Pennsylvania that have just those numbers or some combination of those numbers in Pitt. So it's a fun story. I had a lot of fun doing it, and it'll show up tomorrow morning.
It takes me back to high school. Back when I was playing, there was only 3 classes in the state of Indiana, but they had this point system. It was a weird thing generated by who you played, who you won, and who you played. And like we would open up with Clarksville. They were a 1A school, and that hurt us apparently horribly because we had a great season. It was the best season in the school's history. We were ranked. Our last game of the season was against a middling Madison team, and all we have to do is win. We're so much better, and we'd had some injuries leading up to it. I broke my leg. I was in the radio booth actually, and another friend of mine that had been running back. He broke his foot, but we still plenty. The main, boy, we just got beat. And to this day, that's one of those things. I was just talking about the other night with some guys. It just never leaves you. It's just like, how? It's all we had to do. How did that happen? And it's funny. But speaking of funny, John's got some pictures for you, Mikey Bob. John.
There you go.
That's in Las Vegas at the World Series finale. That's me on the right. A friend of mine, actually from down near West Virginia. Originally, he lived in Texas for a long time, but he grew up in Texas, and that's in somewhere. I don't know, it's somewhere else. But that's me on the right again. I was the header. So
holy cow.
There you go, baby.
I'm impressed.
Proof. It's true. It's true. It's not a lie. I didn't make it up. What's up next for you, man?
That's it, man. That epic tomorrow morning. That was a month's work, and like I said, a lot of fun writing it. And it's an epic. So it'll take you a few minutes to get through, but it's a fun story. I really enjoyed writing
those stories are fun, and because there are so many freaking stories in those, and then sometimes you've heard stories and you forget.
Yes.
Because there are some. I mean, the stories in those things are what's the best, because that stuff you can't make up.
Yeah. I talked to Dave Wanstedt, my colleague at Big Ten Network, about the game, and he had great memories, and it's really nice. I mean, his departure from Pitt was not handled well by the university. He built up the program to where they were competitive in the Big East, and the Big East was good then. I mean, it wasn't the modern day SEC, but it was a good football league, and they were competitive for 3 years in a row, shared the conference championship in his final year, and they decided they could do better. And he was an alum, and they did not handle that well. It's really a nice story about that. Dave's a great guy, and he's going to go back tomorrow night and be an honorary captain for the game, for the reunion of the backyard brawl. That's pretty, it shows what a good person he is. I mean, some people, when they do not get handled well, never want to go back to that scene. And Dave,
that would never happen at Indiana.
I did not say
just
that.
To let you know. Dave Wanstedt is my favorite Big Ten Network football analyst.
He does a great job. Great guy.
I love him. He's just dead on. He says it how it is, and he cuts to he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, so it's a nice little thing. It's going to happen tomorrow night. And today, by the way, is the 15th anniversary of the launch of the Big Ten Network.
I'll be darned. I wish I'd have known that. I'd had some of those
Dave
guys
Revson sat there 15 years ago today and introduced America to BTN. It's for those of us who've been associated with the network. I put on Twitter this morning, somehow they got through 2 basketball seasons without me. But I've been there ever since. And I've been so blessed, guys, because, at Sporting News, I've had hundreds of colleagues go through in the 27 years I've been there, and they've all been wonderful, exception of one. And at BTN, it's been universal. The people have been just phenomenal to work with. And so I'm really lucky that I've gotten a chance to work with such great people. And I will tell you, Dave Revson, talk about somebody who doesn't get enough credit for what he does. He is an absolutely awesome studio host, just tremendous at it. And he does other things well too. When he does a game, he's great. But I will when I sit there with him doing the studio, I'll like tell them what I'm going to talk about. Like, okay, I'm going to talk about Michigan's defense played 2-3 zone or whatever, and that's all. It's just like that. And then and then we'll talk about it. Me and usually now Rafael Davis and. But in the past, Jimmy and Steve Smith and Steve Bardo, et cetera. And we'll talk about this and that and the other thing. And then I'll finish my point, and Dave will have some stat that amplifies everything I just said. And I'm like, you didn't know I was going to say this? Where does this come from? And he does it all the time. He is.
Well, I got some good news for you. But he's got a lot of help behind him, feeding him through that
He
earpiece.
does.
I'm gonna have to say
Harold
now.
Shelton, our great researcher, absolutely. But he is.
Is that the guy that I met up there actually during football media days?
Harold is fabulous. Great guy. Yeah. Phenomenal.
That's
like I said, they're just everybody that I've dealt with at BTN has been wonderful. And I can't say how lucky I've been to be there with that group. It's been a blessing.
Well, it's the most successful network of its kind. So things are working. Mike, what's up? Let's see, you started to. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of your week and enjoy week 1 of college football.
I'm looking forward to it, guys. Dustin, have a great Friday night. Jim, we'll talk to you next week.
Make sure you give Mike a follow and be a subscriber at the Sporting News. Keep local keep content coming, baby. We've got lots more coming up. Chronic Hoosier is going to join us. More to get to here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Barber Pop Real Estate Services. If you're in Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison counties, they've served that area for 3 decades. Reach out to Matt Lincoln, Matt@barberpop.com. If you're looking for a home in the Indy area, Remax Realty's Cheryl Sizemore has served that area for 2 decades. Her experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
Morning, Chronic.
Good morning, gentlemen. How's it going today?
Hey, bro. How are you, man?
Oh, living the dream.
John, so are we late? What? I have no idea.
No, you went long enough to where we're just skipping the extra break, so you're good.
All right.
I was going to say earlier, before Chronic was already in the queue, I was going to say if he shows up before the segment starts, we'll skip the break. And if he doesn't, we were going to just go and then break again, but we're good.
Just skip it, baby. Skip it.
Yep. So we do on live radio or live YouTube /radio, whatever you want to.
Chronic. Well, start thinking about this. I'm gonna ask you for your 5 favorite tailgate food items.
Ooh.
I need some ideas to make at BB's, which is the old wagon wheel. I'm gonna start making a tailgate item each Friday. Something cool, something good. I mean, whatever your absolute best favorites are.
Mainly involves hogs. A lot of hogs.
A lot of hogs, a lot of pork.
A lot of pork.
Yeah, pork barbecue is always good.
I'm telling you, it's a crock pot. You just throw it in and let it do its thing all day.
Stuff that's easy to make. What's new with you, brother?
Oh,
ready for football?
Ready to get this thing started, man. I didn't realize until last night. Like, we're gonna have family at 2 different football games Friday night. Totally missed the fact that my kids aren't even going to be there with us. Yeah.
Did we lose you, Chronic?
No, you got me.
Okay, I thought your audio cut off for some reason.
And brats and kraut, that's I mean, that's good, but that's easy. So I need something that's a little more difficult to show how to make it, man.
Maybe 15 seconds. Here we go. We'll save it for here we go.
Pros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Dustin Schutte with me as always, and now I'm joined by Chronic Hoosier. How are you, sir?
Living the dream. Happy to be back. How are you today?
I am alive and well. I'm in the middle of a move, which is always a blast. But I certainly feel it, boy. Every time I have to move, it's I feel it more. It's like playing or running or something. Whew.
Now you staying on the lake? You coming into town?
Oh no! Staying on the lake.
Okay.
That would be nice. It would alleviate some driving, but no. I wish. What's new with you, the kiddos? I know you're ready for some football, but we're got a split allegiance, as you mentioned in the break, obviously, because this week Indiana plays on a Friday night. Not hardly any of us like that. Coach Allen doesn't like it. Nobody likes it. That's for the kids. That's for high schools. I hate when, my God, college football, they got games on Tuesdays. They've got games on Wednesdays. They've got games on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Leave Fridays alone. Damn. But that's an argument for another time. So Indiana opening up a season Friday night under the lights against the Illini. I'm looking forward to it.
You and I both, this scheduling, I didn't even realize until yesterday. It dawned upon me that my children won't even be present at the IU tailgate because this is the home opener for South High School football here this weekend. Or I have a daughter in school, and then my middle schooler is it's middle school night at South for the area middle schools that feed in there. So he's going to be with all his middle school teammates in the stands supporting the South team. So it's going to be a split household, still trying to figure out exactly how that's going to work from a logistics standpoint with various start and end times and whatnot. But it's, it's weird. I certainly wouldn't want this to become the norm. I guess I give the conference a pass since it is kickoff of the season. You only get so many night games per year. You only get so many games, especially when you're Indiana. You only get so many games in, that wheelhouse of Indiana weather where you really, really want to be in the tailgate fields and in the stands at the Rock. So certainly not wishing this one away, but I certainly would be okay if we just did this as a one-off every couple of years, because it does greatly impact not just the natural order of things, but it takes the staff off the recruiting trail during a time when they can be out doing evaluations, making themselves seen on the high school sidelines or in the stands as high school games are playing. It's just not good. I don't think for the sport, but it is what it is. And it's just a couple days away now. So we're going to take it with a grain of salt and try to make the most out of it. Hopefully the Hoosiers can get the season off on the right foot and off to a 1-0 start against the Illini.
Well, we've seen a lot of new things happening. Of course, USC, UCLA coming in. A lot of people talking about the distance and all that. Well, I just saw that Old Dominion Freight Line aligns with Indiana University as the official freight carrier of IU athletics. So
what? I'm not going to lie. I'm all for endorsements and anything that puts money in the coffers. I'm still giddy about the announcement we got yesterday. Upland Beer will remain the craft beer provider for IU athletics. So love to see that stay local. Love to get some great beer offerings at Memorial Stadium, and from the sounds of it, maybe Assembly Hall here sooner than later.
Yeah, I should have had John pull that clip. Scott Dolson yesterday. He also met with us, and John, if you will start working on that, I was in the midst of sending you that. He met with us after the coaches did, after the Tom Allen and Witt and Bell, and that's one of the things he talked about. Is the possibility that they're looking at that the potential selling beer at Assembly Hall. That's not something that I see happening. Well, I shouldn't say. I should put no time limit because they could do it at any time. He did not put a timeline on it, though. He didn't say we're looking at doing it now, which isn't to say that it couldn't happen this year, but it is already happening at Memorial Stadium, at baseball, soccer, softball, and Assembly Hall is the next thing. He did mention that alcohol-related events went down last year, that they had a lesser amount, that controlling the environment is the bigger thing. And that makes sense. Because now you don't have as many people sneaking stuff in, and and if you're sneaking stuff in, then you have to be sneaking in alcohol, not beer, because it's too hard to get that in.
Yeah, I mean,
you lack creativity.
Yeah, well, it's not. You can get a lot more in via the other way than beer. I can tell you that.
Well, let me tell you, sometimes it doesn't matter if they sell alcohol. I remember going to Pacers playoff games, and just down the street, maybe 2 blocks, there was a liquor store. And maybe I did this, maybe I didn't. I guess we'll never know. But they sold like plastic bags that the metal detectors can't catch, and they had any type of alcohol you'd like, and you just put it in your pocket. The metal detectors don't catch it, and then you can get a soft beverage and dump it in there. So I mean, it's not going to deter everything, but it probably helps. Plus, you don't have people taking those last 3 or 4 shots or chugging 2 or 3 beers before they head directly into Memorial Stadium. So I think that there's been enough evidence that typically, at least on the college front, probably not so much on the NFL or MLB, because we constantly see fights breaking out in those areas. But I think there's enough evidence to show that when you offer beer in and around the stadium, it typically cuts down on the number of incidents, fights, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Scott actually talked about a lot of things yesterday. I asked him, one of the things I asked him was about NIL. And I know that we're talking apples and oranges here with football, basketball, or football and anything else because of size, just because of sheer size of numbers, players, and all that. But there's obviously been a good push for basketball, and that's understandable. It's the easiest to get up and going, the fastest. It's the most popular. It is the one that the university fans want to see up and going first. So I get that. But my question is there a plan to start to kind of even it out, to start, working on the football side of things? And for us, he says, so I'm trying to find what his answer was, but I'll have to find that later while I'm talking. But the goal, of course. But right now, it's basketball oriented, Chronic.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I think that's what most people would expect IU's priorities to be, just based off of the culture at Indiana, the tradition, the history of the programs. But I think when you look at the bigger picture and you look at how NIL is reshaping college athletics, right in front of our eyes, football is the final frontier that Indiana will have to conquer when it comes to the NIL world. Because when you've got, all the institutional, all the structural disadvantages that Indiana currently faces playing in the Big Ten East, in this particular geographic part of the country, it's a steep enough hill. It's a tough enough pull to convince top level talent why they should pick Indiana over some of the teams we're competing against, some of the teams in our own backyard. But when you throw in the financial side of it with NIL and the can of worms that's opened up, the schools that prioritize football from a resource standpoint are the ones that are really starting to distance themselves from the rest, and that's really going to be where Indiana is going to be forced to keep up. We have long talked about facilities, coaching salary, assistant salary, all the way down the line. Now you're talking about one that directly impacts the players, the recruits, straight to their pocketbook. They can make an immediate impact on their families and their livelihoods and everything around them, in ways far, far, far greater than, indoor practice facilities, locker rooms, coordinators, things of that nature. So I think, Indiana may be at a disadvantage there right now, but I think there's certainly an awareness and a recognition of what the task is ahead and how they're going to have to be able to compete. And I would imagine that Scott Dolson and his entire cadre are acutely aware, and I would imagine are actively working on solutions for that. Right now with Hoosiers for Good, the Hysterics Collective, these things are private entities for purposes of record reporting. We don't know exactly what the raw numbers are flowing in and out. But you just look at anecdotal evidence, the coldest, all these NIL deals you see coming out. There's a big difference when you have collectives that are just, spreading it around evenly or prioritizing top talent, versus when you have private actors, when you have businesses that are directly engaging the players for these agreements. And as we've spoken about with NIL, giving them the opportunity to stand on stage when that big jumbo check is presented to the player, as opposed to having to employ, seedy bagmen and dark alley situations and things like that. The schools that have the big booster support for the football programs are really flexing their muscles in that area. And that's going to have to be an area where Indiana finds a way to compete. If they want to start attracting some of that talent that NIL is now going to start divvying up according to the bidding wars.
Well, one of the things that I've had a concern with, Chronic, is if you're Indiana, I don't think there's any concern about that being a factor on the basketball side, as you just mentioned. But on the football side, you hear a few weeks ago, Ryan Day, or maybe it was a few months ago now, saying, basically we need $13 million to be competitive. And I think that when you look at the history of Indiana football, I mean, we all know what the history is. It's not great. And I feel like there's a lot of donors or boosters or whoever is going to get involved and is going to say, what's the point? We're not going to be able to compete with that kind of number. So I don't want to say that they're going to throw in the towel or give up, but I just feel like there's going to be almost, or I concern about a potential defeatist type of attitude where, well, if this is what Ohio State, Penn State, there's no chance we're going to raise that. So why don't we put our efforts somewhere else, into men's basketball, women's basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, some of those other things? I mean, do you think that could be an issue, or do you think that eventually Indiana is going to be they'll have something more on the football front?
I do think it's an issue, and we're always trying to measure what's enthusiasm, what's the level of apathy surrounding the program. Mm-hmm. And you can measure it in terms of attendance. You can measure it in terms of ticket sales and licensed goods sales and everything else. They very much battle that, just like we do every season, to get fans in the stands. I think what strikes me when it comes to the NIL realm, particularly with football, I've talked to a lot of decision makers, a lot of check writers in this town, and just gauged what's your interest in entering to the NIL space. My workplace has been approached multiple times by IU athletes or the representatives seeking NIL deals, and the difference between helping the basketball program land a 5-star versus what are we doing for the second string offensive lineman? It's just a night and day difference. And when it comes to the program, or when it comes to the deals that maybe don't have the prestige, the impact potential, due in large part to roster sizes between the different programs, due in large part to just the depth of talent and that talent's ability to impact. Most of the people I talk with are looking at it strictly from a return on investment standpoint. How much money am I really willing to spend in order to affiliate my brand, my business with that particular personality? And what's it going to give? How much more sales is that going to generate for me? And more often than not, it's viewed as that would be a vanity project rather than an actual business investment. And especially with the economy kind of being in flux right now, coming out of the last 2 years and all the economic forces at play. Most of the businesses I know are kind of tightening the belt right now and looking at ways to streamline, and maybe not so willing just to throw money willy-nilly, just for the sake of saying, we're involved in that area. Now, I do know donors that continue to whether it be for priority points, for the prestige, whatever, who continue to reinvest in the program and through their donations, and now diverting some of those funds into the collectives, knowing that we have to do it. But I think it's going to be increasingly difficult for Indiana to justify some of those dollars coming from that particular donor class when you're coming off a 2-10 season. When you don't have a lot of hope right now for contention in the conference, contention in the division. When bowl eligibility is kind of the high water mark right now, it's hard to garner the enthusiasm required for people to break out the checkbooks and start putting all those zeros in front of the decimal point. So I think it's one of those things where when the program finds success, when they're able to get their footing back underneath them, I think that task becomes easier. But I still think Indiana is going to be structurally disadvantaged simply because of that enthusiasm gap among its football programs and the donors versus some of the other schools around us.
I asked Scott Dolson about NIL, like I mentioned yesterday, about trying to go out. Here's what he had to say on that.
Yeah, let me first just say that, we've been working on NIL. It was a little over a year ago when NIL started, and we were working on it the year before. And I'm really proud of our team internally has done everything we can to put our student athletes in a position for success and to maximize that opportunity. As it relates to specifically to football, it's certainly important from a competitive standpoint that our student athletes have success here in all our sports, but certainly football is a priority. We can only control what we can control. I will say, since you opened the door, I do want to thank all of the supporters out there who have supported NIL efforts, particularly, as you said, Hoosiers for Good, who's really done some amazing things. And I know they want to continue to grow that. And I know football is important to them as well. Again, that's outside the athletic department, but it is something that they know it's important to us that we have success from our student athletes. So again, as future student athletes look at coming here, they see that there are NIL opportunities here, and we take it very seriously. And I think we're on a good track to do that.
And Scott Dolson, by the way, is, again, I will say, he is the right guy at the right time for Indiana University. I think they're very fortunate to have him here during all this time because, my God, a new AD, he landed right when everything hit, and he has navigated everything pretty daggone well, I have to say, Chronic.
No, you want to talk about a bumpy liftoff, COVID, NIL, revenue shortfalls all the way down the line.
Transfer portal, boom.
Yep. The hits have just kept on coming as far as the changing landscape. And, I think that's one of the great benefits with Scott Dolson is this is a guy that's he maybe had I think one other job perhaps at some point in his career outside the university, but pretty much a lifer here at IU. He's just well-positioned, well-connected, and certainly astute and apprised of what's going on and what it's going to take to succeed. All that being said, though, at the end of the day, it's still Indiana football. That's the product you've got to sell. And I think a lot of this becomes more theoretical and academic when you've got a program that's able to achieve and sustain success, by whatever definition you measure that. It certainly makes that job a whole lot easier on every front, whether it be ticket sales, whether it be, coaching retention, player retention, all the way down the line, NIL, donors, everything. A rising tide will lift all boats. But where I think it becomes particularly tricky for Indiana, especially as we enter into this new media rights age and these astronomical figures that we're seeing now, that are going to start flowing into the Big Ten schools, is, football is still going to be the engine that drives that entire bus. And the other 23 varsity sports at IU are all directly impacted by football success. So whatever means it takes in order to leverage these newfound resources and continuing to grow the success of the football program and then sustain it is just going to be a net benefit for everybody on 17th Street. And the great news is we are just a little over 72 hours away from getting a new season off on hopefully the right foot and heading down that path towards reestablishing success for IU football.
He just shortened it up with the hour countdown. that makes it sound even closer. That just gave life to it. I could not agree more. I love
75 hours till the lot opens, but who's counting?
Yeah, there you go. I love the rising tide lifts all boats, because I think for Indiana, I agree with you. Football is the engine that drives trains, but in Indiana, basketball is the fuel for the engine. And I think once the basketball is back to where it was, it will be easier to get football, to raise football, to get that level up, because women's basketball is going well too. So then you're getting the school is just getting more attention, and when you get more attention, period, that spreads out. And like you said, it is exactly what the rising tides lift all boats. And but you have to have something rising, if it's not football, use something else. And basketball can be that vehicle that lifts everything at Indiana, I think.
I think basketball gets the fans excited. It gets people engaged in the university. I love the fact this year they've paired Hoosier Hysteria with homecoming weekend. It really allows them to capitalize on the synergy between those programs. But, at the end of the day, from a dollars and cents standpoint, nothing holds a candle to the type of revenue potential that football offers. And you see that in the new media rights deal with the Big Ten Network, or I guess with Fox Sports and all its affiliate partners. You see that just in the raw numbers that football is able to generate due to the venue, due to the amount of bodies they're able to pack in there. And ultimately, when you look at successful departments across the country, from a fiscal standpoint, at least, almost every successful athletic department is grounded in solid football financials. So it's certainly going to be a challenge for Indiana, but I think it's something that hopefully they're well positioned to address, to tackle, and to find some success in.
I agree, brother. I cannot thank you enough. Hopefully I get maybe run into you on Friday night at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be a scramble. We got to I think we're going to be doing drop off at South, and then scurrying over right now, trying to coordinate who's setting up the space and reserving the parking places, so that we've got a tailgate spot. I'm going to be a little late getting out of there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there when the gates open due to some work obligations. But we will migrate over there as soon as possible. And it looks like the weather is going to be gorgeous, and I just absolutely cannot wait to get this thing back started again.
Chronic Hoosier, can't thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks as always for having me, guys. Be well.
Chronic Hoosier brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, number one Honda dealer in Bloomington. Make sure you go check out the AndyMooreHonda.com. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com, as they always have incredible sales. They are the best. So make sure you check them out. We're back to finish it out here. We're going to hear from Scott Dolson again on beer sales at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Dustin Schutte with me. Right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
Man, this is going to be a long day.
Why?
Is today your last big move, or you have to get
on
today?
No, I mean, tomorrow's the 31st, but I want it to be done. I lost the entire weekend because I had that scramble. I left Friday night to go down there, and then so all day, and I planned on potentially coming home Saturday, but I was just too whipped, and I just hung out with my buddies because I don't get to do that. And then Sunday, I'm like, all right, I'm going to come home Sunday. Ended up just hanging out again. That's the day that killed me. That's the day that I screwed myself on.
Damn it.
That's how I feel. Damn it, Janet.
Damn it.
I didn't get a single bet in last week either because I was so busy. I was so mad.
A bet?
But I'm probably lucky because it probably would have. Need to find out how he did.
Hey, John, you were the only one that picked Northwestern.
On our podcast, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
How about that? John, John's starting off on the positives.
Pick
He
two.
got his ass whooped last year by me.
I did. Let me see if I still have the records. I'll tell you the records if I can get them real quick, unless I deleted it.
He picked Northwestern. Mitchell and I both picked Nebraska. He's starting off hot. He's doing his research, baby.
Yeah, you don't need much research to know that Scott Frost is a fraud.
No, I wouldn't say he's a fraud. He's just.
I'll say he's a fraud.
Everything does not carry over. His success at Central Florida and his style is not working at Nebraska.
I was in Orlando and knew some mutual people. I don't know. Okay.
Here, while we got to say, I've got the records from last year.
Jennifer is now AKA Gritty.
Gritty? Does she hit Dustin, the gritty? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Last year you were 80-18. I was 71-27.
Well, wow, that ain't.
Yeah,
and those are only Big Ten games.
Those aren't against the spread.
Yeah, it's not against the spread. It's just picking outright winner.
I want you to start asking me what my pick is. I want my pick included.
Okay.
Would you have picked Nebraska or Northwestern?
No, Northwestern, of course.
There you go. 1-0.
4-0. I'm not a Scott Frost fan. EaglePoint.com, the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. An exceptional golf and dining experience.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Jim Coyle with you as always here on this Tuesday, coming to you on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. I hope you're having a great time wherever you are, however you're listening, whatever you're doing. Good day to everybody down on the river in Evansville on the ref 97.7 ESPN. Always the right call. Beer sales. Everybody's been wondering about Simon Scott Assembly Hall because it came to Memorial Stadium. It has come to Andy Moore. It's come to the Bark. Softball, baseball. Let's see, isn't it somewhere else? Am I missing? It seems like there's another place where they're selling it. But anyway, not at Simon Scott Assembly Hall for the regular peeps, the common folk,
right? Guys like me.
Yeah, guys like you. But that could be a possibility. Scott Dolson yesterday while meeting with us after the football coaches did, which was cool. I didn't expect that. I didn't know that was happening, and that didn't happen before. But it was very cool. He's very open. That's another. He is a very, very accessible, open, honest guy. I think he is great for Indiana University.
I was just going to say the same thing. Yep.
He is. There have been a lot of negative things for IU over the years, decisions, this, that, hires, bumba. He is the opposite of that. He is possibly the best hire they have made in any form.
I think he's very different than Fred Glass, and I don't think I don't want to say Fred Glass was over the top. That's not the right phrase, but he was very. He kind of wore his emotions on his sleeve a little bit.
He was also a lawyer.
Well,
he's an attorney.
But I think Scott Dolson is. I don't know how to phrase this. Buttoned up, but also very open. Like he's never going.
Scott Dolson has grown up in sports athletics business, and that's what he's done. He was a manager on the '87 national championship team. Then he's done business. Then he been working in sports administration. That's what he has done. He's built his life on working in sports administration and the business side. So he has had years and years of experience. Fred Glass was an attorney. Right. All of his experience was as an attorney. not as an athletics director. And so that's a huge difference in that, I think.
Right.
Scott does not come across as an attorney, I can tell you that.
He'll tell you what he's thinking, what is happening. He's like you said, he's very open. At the same time, he's kind of like that basketball player whose emotions don't change whether they're down 17 points or ahead by 3. He's just very consistent. And I think that that's really what Indiana needs, especially when you're going through all these kind of changes, right?
Well, he's certainly managing them well. And I asked him yesterday about, well, I didn't ask him this question. I asked him the NIL stuff. But right after that, he was asked more broadly on alcohol sales, beer and wine in particular at athletic events that has gone from a trial period football. Now it's expanding into other sports, kind of widespread. Is it something you see continuing to expand? Where does that go next? What is the financial impact as you expand? I imagine it's smaller, but to places like baseball, soccer, volleyball, etc. Well, it's already in baseball. It's already in soccer. Volleyball might be next, yeah. But here's what Scott had to say.
Right. Yes, we'll continue to evaluate, and I'll say that it has gone extremely well to date. Our data really shows from the time we implemented the first year Memorial Stadium that our incidents actually went down, our alcohol-related incidents, and I think controlling the environment is proved to be successful. So we'll continue to evaluate. We did announce that we expanded that to soccer. We're currently looking at Simon Scott Assembly Hall to see if that's something that we may or may not do. But I am a big proponent of making certain that we're keeping up with what our fans would like to see from a fan experience standpoint. And the feedback we receive from our fans, even going back to this spring with baseball and softball, has been really, really well received and handled really well. So we'll continue to grow that and to look at ways that we can maximize that opportunity, but keeping in mind responsibility drinking, managing the process in a way that we don't put any other fan in a precarious position by having alcohol served.
So they're checking the boxes and doing all of the appropriate research they need to do, and just slowly bringing it along. Now the one thing is I wonder about. I don't know why it's been this slow, because it's been in Mackey for at least 3 seasons.
Here's my question. He made the comment there at the end, we don't want to put fans in a precarious situation.
Other fans that aren't drinking, I believe.
Okay, but then
what he's intending.
I understand that, but then why do you have it at these other facilities? That shouldn't be a factor. You've already.
I think that they look at each facility individually and what are differences there that may be different from the other. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. I'm not criticizing. I'm just asking the question because it doesn't make sense to me that that the circumstances in that regard would be much different. Now, one of the things
it's a tighter circumstance. Basketball is just inherently more. It's tighter, man. You're closer. You have greater access.
You're probably
to the athletes.
I was just going to say it's probably the athletes more than anything. Because you can
get to the floor in basketball.
Right.
You can get to the floor. You can't get to. It's hard to get to the field in football.
Right.
It's hard to get to the field in all these others. Yeah.
Right.
You can get to the floor. So there are differences. It's each facility offers a different challenge.
Yeah.
And so I get it.
I think
it makes perfect sense.
I still think somebody brought up a good point maybe a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about this. The balcony. I mean, I do think that might be a legitimate concern because those are steep steps. I think they need to put in. I have been up there multiple times, and as somebody who's afraid of heights, it's not fun going up or down those stairs. So imagine you don't even need a lot, 2 or 3 beers, you could have a real problem on your hands. So I actually, when somebody pointed that out, that makes complete sense to me.
All you got to do is put up the hockey boards in the balcony.
Yeah, but that
Problem
doesn't keep
solved.
you from. But put in. I think you put in handrails.
Oh, you mean falling down the stairs?
Yes, those are steep steps.
Yeah.
I get the Bambi legs just going up there.
They're all steep. Doesn't matter. They're all steep. I mean, even the regular ones are steep.
Yeah, but you're not as high
angle.
up, right?
You are if you're in 46, 45 up there. I mean, you're just above those in the balcony, obviously, but it's you gotta, let me tell you this, you've got a longer fall down the stairs from the main level than you do the balcony stairs.
That's a good point.
I wouldn't want
I don't want
to fall down either of them.
I think the proximity to the players on the basketball court at Assembly Hall is probably a big factor. I also do think the steepness of those stairs, I do think that's probably a factor as well, because that is a problem. That's a problem for me, sober, just walking like a regular 34-year-old human being.
Yeah, but here's what you do. You have for the balcony, you have the baseball type sales. Cold beer here, cold beer here. Hell, get your
you could do that.
Get your cold beer here.
There you go. That's a good idea.
So solves that. Bring it to the people. Bring it to the people. What is today is Tuesday. Any sports on tonight? Well, it was baseball, of course.
Plenty of baseball. Yep.
Plenty of baseball. Guess who's playing? Well, you kidding me? Cincinnati and St. Louis.
Of course they are. St. Louis is in Cincinnati. Oh, here's the worst of the worst. The Oakland A's are in Washington.
Oh, they have combined to win 91 games and lost 166. They're 91 and 166 combined.
They've lost twice as many games as they've won.
How about the Dodgers and the Mets going at it, baby?
Oh, yes. Let's go Dodgers. We need
Dodgers.
That's the Braves fan speaking. Of course, the Braves got to take care of business against the Rockies, but it would be nice if the Dodgers could take care of business and maybe sweep the Mets.
The Braves are only 3 games out.
I know, and I think they still have a 3 or 4 game series with the Mets coming up. It might just be 3, but it's in Atlanta. So if they can get a couple games here, that series late, I think it's it's got to be in September. That was about to be a dumb comment. That could determine the East, the NL East.
The Padres are fighting for a playoff spot with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is 3rd in the American League East, National League East rather. 3rd place, but they've won 72 games. That is astonishing because that is only 6 games less than the New York Yankees.
Yep. And they're 19 and a half
This is the 3rd place team, folks.
Yep.
3rd place team. Won 6 less games than the Yankees. So getting a little fun there. And they're 19 and a half games back.
Can you imagine having that kind of season and then being you're not even in contention? Like you would think most years they'd probably be either leading the division or within a couple games. They're 20 games back.
Yeah, they would be closer for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like usually, if you have that good of a season, you're at least in the hunt. You have a chance. They've got.
The Dodgers have just. Shot. The Dodgers are just. They've lost 38 games. They've won 89.
I know.
What is that? 3-1? A 3-1 margin?
I'm sure. I don't.
I mean, they don't have the winning percentage up here, so I'm curious as to what.
Hold on, let me see. Let me see if I can find it here really quick before we run out of time, because they usually have it with the standings. So we go down here to the LA. The winning percentage, 3 out of 4. Yep, I mean 7 out of 10, 70, basically a 700 winning percentage. Good math off the top of your head.
Well, that's the only way I do math. I'm ADHD. I don't do formulas, but I can. It's weird. I can start to look at it and get I can get close. I'm not going to get the exact thing, but hey, man, looking forward to tomorrow because it's Wednesday, and that means Bob Kravitz comes to join us. Kyle Nedrip will from the Indy Star. Bob Kravitz, of course, from the Athletic. Kyle from the Indy Star will get caught up on the results of week 2 high school football, and we're heading into week 3 of high school football.
And the first week of September.
Week 3. We have it. I mean, week 3, they played how many regular season games they play now in high school?
9.
I was going to say, I thought it was 9. So a third of their season is about to be completed.
Yep. That's insane.
A third. It is nuts. So we'll look forward to talking to Kyle. And then, of course, the man, the Hall of Famer, Ricky B. Greg Bozich from WDRB.com. Looking forward to catching up with him. His White Sox just not going to get it done this year.
They're only 5 back. They could.
Only 5 back, but it seems like they've been 5 back, only 5 back for.
That's a good point.
They've lost 4 straight.
Any chance they've had to make a run, they've fallen short.
They've lost 8 out of their last 10.
Yeah, they've had their chances, but they're not completely out of it. If they got a good run in them, they could. It's just not likely.
30. I love to hear Ozzie Guillen right now. Man, I cannot thank everybody enough. Big thanks to Dustin, of course, joining us each and every day. Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier, John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. We couldn't do it without you. We appreciate you so much. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow. Thanks for all the comments. We appreciate you guys. Keep them up. Don't forget, send in your ideas for tailgate tips. We're going to start doing that, cooking those. So I need those ideas. Send them to me however you get them to me. On Twitter, there's a myriad of ways to message me. And you can find that. Thanks, you guys, so much. We appreciate you. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Until then, till tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.